From the darkest depths of outer space came an evil no man could predict. A cloud of zombie takeout engulfed our great planet.
What's up? Welcome to episode 284 of Zombie Takeout.
Zombie Takeout.
The B-Moving Cult Movie Podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got some listener submitted. This is from Jason Hall on Google Plus in the anime community that I belong to, Intro to the Wonderful and Crazy World of Anime.
Uh-oh.
I posted our review of Ghost in the Shell there, and he replied saying, I agree with a lot of this. The Ghost in the Shell info dumps were a bit much at times. And that was really the big issue with it. We talked a bit about the animation, but on the whole, that was, product of its time. But the info dumps, as Jason said, were the big issue.
I liked the animation of the movie itself, actually. But I mean, yeah. And really, there was just, that was in place of character development. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
These crazy, monologues that just were like, yeah, the info dumps are the best way to describe them.
Yeah. And John Phillips, also on our review of Ghost in the Shell, but on Facebook, said, I haven't listened yet. Okay. He has a habit of doing that.
I like it better when he live live messages it,
But I see there's a new version out. Did any of you see it? And he's referring to Ghost in the Shell, the new movie, which I think is the sequel that I was kind of vaguely referring to because I kind of sort of had heard about it, but not really.
It's kind of confusing when you look at the the listings of it. There's like a 2.0. There's
and there's also, which I completely forgot about, Ghost in the Shell Arise, which isn't exactly a remake, but it's an alternate story set before the formation of Section 9, and the Major is, before she was the Major, was a hacker. And I'm very curious to see that. It's considered like an alternate universe version of Ghost in the Shell.
Now, if they base it off a different 80s TV show, like the A-Team, they might be onto something. B.A. Baracus is like the...
Well, that would be Bateau, I think. He would be the B.A. character.
Yeah.
And we also have a voicemail from Chaz, of course, because we're doing his movie this week.
Are we? I thought we changed it.
So let's just take a listen to that now.
Hey guys, Chaz here. I want to let you know that, my son and I are excited about Fido. And you don't have to worry about keeping it clean. He's like 17, going on 37. So it's cool. After all, it is a zombie movie. We both hope it makes it on the rec list. In case you didn't know, it's one of my favorite movies that has zombies. Anyway, guys, it's been great. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
So it's one of your favorite movies, Chaz. We didn't know that. I don't think you've mentioned that before.
It's
just getting
people to articulate their feelings and not keep them so bottled up.
Glad to know we won't have to worry about keeping it clean.
Fuck yeah.
And I think the rec list is a pretty safe bet. I'll just say that.
Ooh, spoiled it, huh?
Yeah, but I think it's a fairly safe bet this week. Also, someone named Chaz Zombie on Twitter, I'm guessing it's Chaz, mentioned us saying, this week's Zombie Takeout will review Fido. Without Zomcom, we'd all be dead. And then where would we be? Dead. So thanks for that, Chaz.
Not so bad to be dead.
Of course, that brings us to this week's movie, which, as I said, is from 2006, Fido. And of course, the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by Zombocom. You can do anything at Zombocom.
It's Zomcom.
Oh, yeah, I guess they're okay too.
That's better than rom-coms. Also brought to you by Feelings, They're things that you just need to get over.
And if you didn't get my reference, go to zombo.com. Thank me later.
All right. So they begin with the newsreel, which instead of World War II, we had the zombie apocalypse, and we reacted in the same way. We built a military-industrial complex that brought the zombies
Mhm.
at bay and even domesticated them. And it made them a little convenient around the house. So you're pulled into this world of 1950s Americana. Only everybody's got a zombie. Well,
Mhm.
not
Well, yeah,
everybody.
most people.
There's the house that our hero lives in. Sadly, has not owned a zombie until, of course, Mom decides to go out and gets one too. Because, well, the new neighbors that moved in, they had 6 zombies. And do you really want to be, you know, the only one on the block who does not have the great thing that everybody else has? So, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, if you've seen a zombie movie.
right, right. They, of course, the device is, we learn pretty quickly, is not very durable. And, yeah, things get out of hand. It really only takes one wild zombie and the entire zombie
Right.
apocalypse erupts again. Uh, so this town is first slowly terrorized, and then, well, the boy grows a fondness to their zombie, as well as Mom,
Mhm.
despite having several pretty gory accidents happen that everybody is cool with. But
Mhm.
it they were he couldn't help himself.
Right.
He's a zombie.
Mhm.
They actually understood him, and they have to. They eventually lose him because, well, they figure out that he's eaten some people,
Mhm.
and that is strictly frowned upon.
Yeah.
And they, of course, plot to get him back. And I think at that point we can say hilarity ensues.
Mhm. And I like at the beginning, they go through this long exposition, but it's done in the announcer voice, so it's kind of fun.
Of course.
And it's
Who
really
doesn't like
just,
newsreel guy?
yeah, and it's really just basic information about zombies, like shots to the head will kill them, and they eat people. But it's really entertaining.
I mean, Opie and Anthony did probably like the best newsreel bit. I mean,
Mhm.
just going on in that
Yeah.
voice,
Mhm.
talking about different things that are just terrible.
And there's a rhyme early in the movie. You see, it starts with these kids at school learning about zombies. And the rhyme itself kind of sums up a lot of things about the movie. It's equally amusing and disturbing. Because it's about how, you're supposed to shoot them in the head, but it's sung to this, like, kids' rhyme.
Right, because they're training that. I mean, they train the kids for battling zombies
Yeah,
in grade school.
yeah. And Billy, the little boy, is, like, enamored with this girl who just is a complete dead eye. Like, they're shooting at, these wooden dummies. She, like, systematically takes the head off with the rifle.
Decapitates it with shots.
Yeah. And I loved that there were no opening credits. It's just this nice little title card at the end of this, opening scene.
Well, the newsreel scene is just perfect in itself.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, contrasting that to what we saw last week.
Yeah, yeah.
This is just such a smooth,
Right. This is how you do exposition.
Holy shit! I mean, they
Yeah.
really worked it in.
Mm-hmm. And then it kind of veers into Dead Snow 2 territory.
They cover a lot of territory in this.
Mhm.
Like, he wastes no time in letting this just settle into anything.
Right.
He tries out a variety of different things, and they all fit so easily, and it's so funny how some of them fit.
One of the neighbors of Billy and his family is Mr. Theopolis and Tammy, his zombie. And like I said, Dead Snow 2 territory. They have a romantic relationship.
Well, it's the very uneasy thing about this movie
Mm-hmm.
is that you could easily say that if slavery still existed in the
Yeah, yeah.
1950s,
Mm-hmm.
it's exactly what it would have looked like.
There's a slavery analogy. There's also a pet analogy. The zombies are treated like dogs,
Sure.
and hence the title, Fido.
Right, right.
And that gets a little heavy-handed at one point in the beginning. You have the father effectively shocking Fido with this little remote control,
Yeah.
and particularly when Fido kills someone, and it's kind of almost a pit bull analogy.
But like the way he moves from like different scenes are definitely taken from a variety of different movies.
Well, and that's the thing is it gets a touch heavy-handed with the dog analogy, and then it moves on from that to a whole nother analogy, just as that's starting to get a little tired.
Like the baseball scene was definitely a take on Howard Stern's private parts
Yeah,
scene
yeah.
with the frisbee,
Mm-hmm.
and then they go into the garage where it's Pulp Fiction,
Right, right.
and he's like hosing down the zombie.
Oh, okay, that scene in the garage. I was thinking the one with Theopolis where they're fixing the collar.
No, no, I'm thinking the scene in Pulp Fiction where Quentin Tarantino is actually hosing
Right,
down
yeah, yeah.
Travolta
Uh-huh.
and Jackson,
Now, I should mention, Fido is played by Billy Connolly.
who you can't recognize.
Would
in the
never have known
makeup.
he was in the movie if I hadn't read
Right.
the credits. Because he not only has zombie makeup on, but he doesn't have a beard and he has short hair.
Yeah, and he looks almost more like Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, yeah. And I haven't seen him without a beard since the 80s. I think since Head of the Class.
Oh, that's right. For Head of the Class, he shaved the beard. I
Mhm.
forgot all about that.
But I think that's the last time I saw him clean shaven. And I don't know that I've ever seen him with short hair outside of this movie.
Hmm. Yeah, because he had kind of a mullet thing going in Head of the Class back
Well, yeah,
then.
he's always had kind of long hair and,
Yeah.
mostly had a beard. But, that was 30 years before this movie was made. So, or 20 years. So he's completely unrecognizable. And he puts in a brilliant performance. He doesn't have a single line of dialogue because he's a zombie. But you can read every emotion.
Definitely. He really wants that cigarette.
And it really, it's kind of the point of the movie. It really humanizes the zombies. This is a movie that takes all of the cliches of zombie movies and completely sideswipes them or sidesteps them.
The fact that a zombie still has a smoking habit,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's what he had during his, that he could take a characteristic from his life
Mm-hmm.
and bring it with him
Yeah, yeah.
to the afterlife.
And it establishes they kind of have memories of their lives and definitely emotions. And it just completely, like I said, completely avoids all of the cliches, which I love about it.
Because just when you think it's going to move, into a cliche,
Mm-hmm.
instead it goes into like this weird Huck Finn
Yeah.
with Zombie Jim kind of thing instead. And you knew a Lassie thing was going to come up.
Uh-huh. Oh, speaking of the dog thing, when he tried to play fetch with Fido, because he couldn't play
Yes.
catch with him, because Fido would just get hit with the ball, which was
Right.
hilarious. Then he decided if you can't catch, fetch, which was with a person, effectively a zombie, but still funny. Oh, speaking of wasting no time, it was barely 15 minutes in, and I hated both of the parents.
Well, like the mom.
Well, you're supposed to later like the mom. She grows on you, but initially you hate her too because she's this typical cold 50s mother, and the father you're supposed to hate through the entire movie, of course.
I don't know. Were you really supposed to hate her in the beginning? I mean, she was trying to keep up with the rest of the Joneses, and
Maybe not as much as the father. Obviously, he's horrible,
and
but
trying to get her husband's attention, who he's oblivious to
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
In throughout all this, of course, there's the theme of the obsession of death over everything else, especially life.
I loved the Death magazine as opposed to Life magazine. Same logo.
She's pregnant and like showing and everything
Mhm.
really obviously
Yeah.
by the towards the end, and he's still like, oh, or she actually comes out and tells him,
Yeah.
and he still doesn't see it.
And actually, that subplot was added because Carrie Ann Moss was actually pregnant when they were filming, and there was no way to hide it, so they just wrote it into the movie.
It worked well.
Oh yeah. Oh, also, director Andrew Curry said that he wanted to make the movie cross genre to make it less predictable.
That's exactly what he set out to do.
Yeah, complete
And
mission
yes.
accomplished.
I mean, when you're going from Huck Finn or Pulp Fiction to Huck Finn to Lassie.
Oh, now that I'm looking at my trivia, should have mentioned earlier. Billy Connolly was reportedly very upset that the role required him to get rid of the beard. He said it, quote, was like ripping out his fucking personality.
It's not that bad, dude.
Well, it's just such a part of, his persona.
I understand all that and everything, but I've done like Movember where I had like for a little bit,
I go back and forth. Facial hair for me is like hair dye is for some people. I change it every few months.
It came to be that I just had to have it. It was definitely a part of me too. It's
Oh, there were also a couple of other interesting ideas brought up in the movie. The elimination of prisons, because there was the wild zone, which was an area where, the zombies were running free because, the town was all fenced in. And there were no prisons because all they did with people who had been, who would go to prison was throw them into the wild zone and basically have them become zombies.
Yeah, doesn't that just make more zombies, though?
But they're out there.
that there's more people you have to fence the town in from. But I think that's also what they're saying is that, coming up with a solution like this is better than actually solving the problem.
If you don't see it, it's not there.
Because you could get to stay in business.
Right.
And, so, draw your parallels to the military-industrial complex of our time. You always have to have an enemy because peace is not profitable.
In another scene, the mother said that she and Billy were choosing zombification over death. Now, she pretty much said it to tweak the father.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting idea to choose to become a zombie. So that you'll stay alive instead of dying. Particularly in this universe where, they are domesticated and clearly have emotions.
Well, right. That's the question. How much of you is left in that zombie?
And
of course, it's an interesting theory of them eating flesh is a way to try to come back to life.
Yeah. Although they didn't really establish that. That was suggested in the garage scene with Theophilus, and he said he didn't really know.
Well, yeah, and I think that was the only, end that wasn't really tied up was this Dr. Geiger character.
Yeah. The inventor of the collars.
Right. Well, inventor of a lot. You get a feeling this is probably based off of another film before this?
Well, there have been other characters in fiction who have been the inventors of a variety of things that have sort of revolutionized society. He's another one of those kind of characters. But we never meet him. He presumably died before the events of the movie. Theophilus worked with him, knew him.
Yeah.
And that's really the only connection we have to him, aside from the newsreel. Oh, back to Theophilus for a second. It's established that he collared Tammy, and that's an interest. I didn't intend to put it that way, but that's, well, I won't get too close to that analogy, but it's interesting. He put the collar on her just after she had turned, so she barely decomposed.
Right.
Which made it, I guess, a little less disgusting.
Well, not the teeth.
Yeah, her mouth is still a little iffy.
Always want to make that clear. Not the teeth.
Well, yeah, because she couldn't look completely normal. It wouldn't have the same impact. Now, fairly early in the movie, Fido kills an elderly woman named Mrs. Henderson. And I was sure that would become a major plot point.
It kind of
it did.
Was the first domino.
Yeah, but they also give you a great head fake because they cut her head off very quickly.
Yeah.
They deal with her very quickly. So you think maybe it wasn't a big plot point. But it turns out she bit someone who was the second domino.
Right.
And I think if anything was predictable about it, it was that whole subplot about, the outbreak in the town.
Well, you knew you were going to have an outbreak in the town, and
Mhm.
of course you were going to have to. The whole thing was that they had all these zombies living among them
Yeah.
with just a stupid piece of technology, protecting them.
Mhm.
And it was interesting that the only ones that were harmed were the ones who really mistreated the
Yeah.
zombies or just,
Uh-huh.
you know,
Which speaks to the zombies having a will
yeah.
and emotions. And really, that whole subplot didn't become the rest of the movie. It
Right.
was just a brief kind of sidetrack in the middle that they wrapped up, fairly quickly.
He does not let you rest on anything.
No. There's also a romantic subplot between the mother and Fido.
Yeah. Well, she's a little.
They don't act on it, at least not until after the father dies, possibly. But she definitely, develops a crush on him a bit.
Because he's more in tune with his emotions
Mhm.
than the father.
Yeah.
Really, I thought after the gun scene where the father, is giving Timmy his gun,
Mhm.
I thought he was going to take off and leave them. Now, granted, that wouldn't make any sense because I guess you're stuck in the town you live in
Yeah.
because of
The fence.
so I guess you can't just leave your family because you're still in town.
That and they had to kill the father. Not, spoilers, but, you knew he was a red shirt from go because he deserved it.
That dude is that's the sort of acting career I could only dream of having.
Well, I do recognize him, but I can't come up with a name. I can't, place him at all.
I was looking at his IMDb earlier, and it's
I've probably seen him in a million things.
of course, um, uh, it's Dylan Baker.
Okay, sounds familiar.
He's been acting for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
He has 119 credits.
Oh, wow.
In 30 years.
Okay, so he's, not a huge name, but he's always working.
Like his latest thing is he's been on The Americans, which I
Okay.
haven't been watching.
I need to check that out. I've heard good things. But yeah, he's probably done like one credit a year. Had a very stable job.
Yeah, I mean, numerous appearances on different TV shows,
Mhm.
recurring roles. The Good Wife and The Mentalist.
Right.
And the Chicago series.
Mhm.
When I say that, of course, I mean like the 3 different Chicago shows that keep a lot of local actors
Yeah.
at work.
Chicago Blue, Chicago Hope, and what was the other one?
No,
Chicago Hope's it's been a while.
It's Dick Wolf who's got like Chicago PD, Chicago Med, and Chicago Fire.
Oh, okay.
So he'll have like cross things, and it's a Chicago universe he's created.
So cops, hospital, and firefighter.
Right.
Back to the movie. There are these two kids who are kind of bullying, terrorizing Billy, and this movie went somewhere I was not expecting.
The child actors were spot on too, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Usually they take you out of it.
No, they were great. Billy got a little annoying, but he was supposed to.
Of course. That was his job.
Yeah.
To give you an idea about Dylan's career, Henry Czerny, the guy that played Bottoms, has been acting for the same amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
They both started in '86, their first credit.
Yeah.
He's got 86 credits.
Okay.
In the same amount.
Yeah.
So, like...
Speaking of Bottoms, the name Johnny Bottoms.
Oh, of course.
Just write your own joke. You know where I'm going.
Yeah.
But back to the two kids who were bullying Billy. There's a scene where he unleashes Fido on them. One of them shoots Fido. It hits him in the chest. Fido just looks down at it and keeps going. Loved that.
Well, the point was they fucking sucked. They were just dumb kids who thought they were just so good because they'd always suck up, but I mean they just didn't have the skills.
And it also establishes unless it's a headshot, it's not doing anything.
Right. Well, yeah, that's the point. They're drilled in their heads that you go for the headshot.
Yeah.
And he gets a chance, he doesn't go for the head.
Mm-hmm. Needless to say, he eats both of them. Although
Well,
you only see him go after one of them.
he didn't eat the other one because
The other one was a zombie. What happened?
they didn't show him getting he got killed, but they didn't show him getting eaten.
Yeah, well, Fido went after the one kid in the shack.
Yeah.
In the shed, whatever.
And the other kid comes out gets back up as a zombie.
Yeah, it turns out the other kid was zombified, and it wasn't the kid that Fido attacked, because he was stuck in the shed. He just got out of the shed. So, yeah, they didn't establish when the second kid became a zombie, but the fact that they turned these two kids into zombies really impressed me.
That's true. I can't remember another movie that went with zombie kids,
Hmm.
aside from, I guess, like The Conjurings and whatnot.
Yeah. Now, there was one thing that pulled me out of the movie a little bit, and I'm really nitpicking here. There's a song called Put a Lid on It by the Squirrel Nut Zippers that's used in one scene. I remember when that song came out in the 90s, so it did kind of take me out a tiny bit.
Was that like the Hit the Road Jack ripoff?
Yeah, it's the scene where she's dancing with Fido.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Squirrel Nut Zipper song. I remember them from the 90s, so...
I remember them, but I don't remember that song.
I kind of like the song, so it stuck in my head. Or I remembered it, I should say. It took me out like for a second, but again, only because I happen to remember this obscure song from the 90s. Now, speaking of things that were unexpected, I loved that Theophilus ended up being a hero. Because he's treated as this absolute pervert for most of the movie.
Of course.
And he ends up saving the day.
But he's always willing to help.
Well, they kind of, little by little, make you warm up to him. Which also normalizes the fact that he's having a relationship with a zombie.
That's the thing with it, it's, if you accept it,
Mm-hmm.
you just,
Well, think about it this way. The same thing happened in Dead Snow 2 when we said it was the most transgressive thing we've ever seen. We were just completely blown away by it. This movie normalizes it. Like, he kisses her at one point, and it's a little cringeworthy, but it's also kind of sweet.
Right. And I think that's the point of it, though. Like, if you accept slavery,
Mm-hmm.
if you just, see that day in, day out and think, oh, yeah, it's just something normal. Yeah, even really, really shitty things can just, go by. Once you've opened that door.
Yeah.
Ugh, where are you?
Also, in one scene, Tammy gets shot almost in the head. It kind of just misses her, to be a kill shot.
I thought she was goner.
And he says, "You knucklehead," to the guy who did it and attacks him. I know it fit the time period, but it still cracked me up.
Yeah, I think he was pretty good to the time period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pretty faithful to it.
Also, and again, spoiler, I don't think we have to worry about spoilers in this one, because it's still worth seeing, and it's still gonna mess with you, even if you know every beat of the movie. I loved that Bottoms became his family's zombie. At the end, his daughter walks in with him on a leash. And he's another character you knew was going to get zombified. Alright, I'm done with my notes.
Yeah, I am too.
On to sequels and remakes? No, there aren't any. And I don't see there being one.
There shouldn't be, no.
No.
This should be a one-time, one and done,
Yeah. And no remakes, because it really was lightning in a bottle.
Unless a sequel would be you move on a generation to the 60s.
Oh, okay.
And take the 60s culture. And...
Mm-hmm. That would be interesting. And the whole revolutionary thing and the hippies.
Yeah.
And maybe a zombies' rights movement.
Yeah.
Because the whole civil rights thing from the 60s becomes zombie rights.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that could work really well, actually.
There you go. Well, Timmy would be older.
Yeah. Timmy would be involved in the zombie rights movement.
Yeah, Timmy'd be maybe in his 20s now.
Mm-hmm. College student in the 60s, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Andrew Curry, if you're listening, get on this. On to Brains.
On to Brains.
I've been between a 4.5 and a 5, because I don't love it as much as I love other movies I've given a 5 to, but I can't find a flaw. I'm going 5.
This was an easy 5 all day long.
All right, and what have we learned?
We learned about, well, zombies sound a lot like the Tasmanian devil.
And I learned that you can't trust the elderly.
Well, they seem nice.
All right, so in 2 weeks, well, yeah, we're off next week because you're going to be visiting Jersey.
Yes.
So in 2 weeks, it was going to be Batman and Robin, but in our continuing quest to push that movie off as far as possible,
we found a new way to push Batman and Robin off for another week.
We're going to try a little experiment, something we've been talking about for a while. We've been talking about revisiting movies that we've already reviewed to see how they'd hold up in the light of, everything we've seen since then. And since we did Ghost in the Shell last week, we're going to go for its companion, Akira. It was a double five back in 2010, episode 48, so I'm guessing that was 2010. And I want to see how it's going to hold up now.
I'd like to think I'd reached the same conclusion that I did.
I'm really not sure because as I mentioned to you before we started, back then it was in my top 5 of all anime that I'd seen. Now I've seen enough that it's barely in my top 10. So I really don't know how I'm going to come down on it. Alright, so until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube. Links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. Reminds me, I need to check the reviews to see if there's anything new on there. Also, if you enjoy the show, spread the word. Give us a little word of mouth. Of course, we appreciate all of the listeners we have, but more would be better. Of course, you'll find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review up through 300-something, because we keep pushing Batman and Robin back.
Yes. Maybe that'll wind up as our 300.
No. No.
400?
That would be okay. I mean, if we can push it back that far, I'll happily do it for 400.
500.
There we go. The request form, if you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, please leave it on the request form, and of course the recommendations list. I had heard really good things about this movie, but it's a zombie movie, so I was kind of skeptical going in.
You know what? You think of a zombie movie, how many things could you possibly do with it?
Right.
And here they've surprised me. Thank you so much.
But by the end of the introductory newsreel thing, I knew it was going to make the rec list. At that point, it was just a question of how high.
Yeah, I think, the first half hour in, I was like, wow, this looks like it really could be something.
Mm-hmm.
Can they keep this going? And I kept expecting it to just stall out somewhere, but no. When they're like, Timmy's stuck in the woods.
Mm-hmm. Of course, you can email us zombietakeout@gmail.com, or like Chaz has been doing and will probably do next week after this review goes up, leave us a voicemail at 414-368-ZTO1 or for the alphanumerically challenged.
You can go fuck yourself.
414-368-9861. Of course, always remember that you will always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee, and until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
Well, children, look at that. It's time for outdoor education.
So let's just take a listen to that now, and I'll just tell you what he said. Hey guys, it's Chaz here. Wanted to let you know that my son and I are excited about Fido. You don't have to worry about keeping it clean. He's 17 going on 37, so it's cool. After all, it is a zombie movie. We both hope it makes it to the rec list. In case you didn't know, it's one of my favorite movies, about zombies anyway. Anyway guys, it's been great. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.